Not too long ago, we revealed to you the lowest quality matchups of the entire Super Bowl era. It's only fair that now we give you the other end of the spectrum. Today, we will be revealing the 11 highest quality matchups of that same Super Bowl era. We'll explain why it's exactly 11 just a little bit later. We determined the best of the best here the way we determine everything else around here, by using C-Score. C-Score is a metric created by this channel to evaluate all of these teams in a deeper, more meaningful way, taking into account so many more things than just their records. For a deeper explanation about how C-Score works, be sure to check out the description of this video. It's important to note that we're talking about the highest quality matchups here. The game itself might not always be so great, but thankfully we do have a few of those. What we're doing is taking the C-score of the two teams in question and simply adding them up. The higher that combination, the higher that matchup will rank. As has been the case in our other videos, only one entry is allowed per team. We're not going to see the same team playing 3 different opponents in the same season. At the end of the video, we're going to highlight some of the games that were left out of this countdown otherwise. Wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for clicking on this video and joining us today. If you've got a few more clicks in you, do the thumbs up, share, and subscribe buttons down there. Don't forget that noti bell so that you don't miss out on any future releases. Let's get this thing started. Starting things off at number 11 is a late season game from the 2010 season on December 19th during week 15. This one coulda, shoulda, woulda been a Super Bowl matchup between the New England Patriots and the Green Bay Packers. The Patriots were the host at 11-2, Green Bay came in with an 8-5 record. The combined C-score between these two teams is 66.044. The reason this wasn't a Super Bowl matchup is because the New England Patriots failed to get out of the AFC divisional round. This despite having an amazing season, going 14-2, outscoring their opponents by more than 200 points, all against a top 5 schedule. Their C-score was 35.77. They had the upper hand here as far as C-score goes, even though the Packers went on to win Super Bowl 45. Green Bay's record wasn't as great at 10-6, their point differential was still pretty good, plus 148. They too played a top 10 schedule. Their C-score comes in at 30.274. The game itself was a back and forth affair, and despite only putting up 249 yards of total offense, the Patriots won it in the end, 31-27. Taking our number 10 spot is a game that personally is near and dear to my heart. I had this day circled on the calendar the moment the schedule came out. This is November 13, 1994, Week 11, the showdown between the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas came in with the better record at 8-1, while the 49ers were 7-2, getting to host the game. The combined C-score between these two teams is 66.836. This game was so important to the 49ers because they had lost 3 in a row to Dallas over the previous 2 seasons, including 2 NFC Championship games. This was the Niners' year though. They finished 13-3, put up a point difference of over 200 points, leading the league in scoring, with only their soft schedule preventing that C-score from hitting the 40s. They still land at 39.162. The Cowboys, on the other hand, were the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions. They ended things at 12-4, finishing in the top 3 in both points scored and fewest points allowed. Their C-score was nothing to scoff at, coming in at 27.674. This was a tight game, tied at 7 at halftime, before the 49ers pulled away in the second half, holding on to a 21-14 victory. Here we have the reason this is a top 11 countdown instead of the normal top 10. For when this list was conceived, the 2025 season had yet to conclude. Now that it has, a matchup from this season, actually two, has moved its way into the countdown. This is a divisional matchup from the NFC West. They first played on November 16th in Week 11. They played a few weeks later, December 18th, Week 16. I think we know what this matchup is. We've got the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Los Angeles Rams. In that first game, the Rams were the home team, with both teams coming in at 7-2. That second matchup saw both teams coming into Seattle at 11-3. The total combined C-score for these two squads is 66.949. For the Seahawks, this was indeed a dream season, going 14-3, outscoring their opponents by nearly 200 points, putting up top 3 finishes in points scored and fewest points allowed, number 1 in that category, all against the league's 7th hardest schedule. Their season culminated with a Super Bowl win and a C-score of 38.446. The Rams, on the other hand, pretty much were the league's second best team, despite only being their division's second best team. They went 12-5, led the league in scoring, and played the league's 3rd hardest schedule. Their C-score was 28.503. The Rams owned the first quarter in that first matchup. Seattle threatened a comeback, but the Rams never lost the lead, holding on to a 21-19 win. Their second encounter was that epic Thursday night game where the Seahawks went for 2 points in overtime to win 38-37. It can be strongly argued that that decision and that conversion is what carried the Seahawks to winning Super Bowl 60. We're going to head back in time a bit for our number 8 entry. In fact, we're going to head back to an entirely different league. This is from the AFL. On October 20th, 1968, during Week 7, these two teams played before getting right back on the field 2 weeks later on November 3rd. These are eternal rivals, the Oakland Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. That first matchup was in Kansas City, with the Chiefs at 5-1 and the Raiders at 4-1. The return matchup was, of course, in Oakland. Kansas City was a strong 7-1. Oakland was still pretty darn good at 5-2. The combined C-score between these two teams was 67.04. These two teams were very close in C-score, but it was the Raiders pulling out slightly ahead. They were 12-2, outscoring their opponents by 220 points. They led the AFL in scoring and managed their C-score of 33.602. As mentioned, the Chiefs were just behind, equally going 12-2, outscoring their opponents by more than 200 points and finishing first in the league in fewest points allowed. Their C-score was 33.438. The Raiders were coming off a loss heading into Kansas City, and they fell behind 24-0 before the Chiefs won 24-10. The Raiders found their offensive groove in the second game, giving Kansas City a 38-21 drubbing. The United States is celebrating its 250th birthday this year. We head back now to when the United States celebrated its 200th birthday. Number 7 takes us to the 1976 season, and we're going right to Week 1, September 12th. This matchup is between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Oakland Raiders. This game was held in Oakland, and of course, both teams were 0-0. This was opening week after all. By the end of things, the combined C-score between these two teams is 68.567. It was the Pittsburgh Steelers who carried the higher score. They went 10-4, but they outscored their opponents by more than 200 points and were by far the league's number 1 team in fewest points allowed, all against the top 10 schedule. Their C-score was 38.703. However, having the last laugh here were the Oakland Raiders. They finished 13-1, their point differential not nearly as strong, their schedule not nearly as strong, their C-score also not nearly as strong at 29.864. But they did win Super Bowl 11. For their part, the Steelers were coming off back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and they led 14-7 after the third quarter. 38 points were scored in the fourth, with most of those coming by the Raiders in a 31-28 win. We head back to a divisional matchup for our number 6 entry, and once again, matchups that were held only 2 weeks apart. The first one here is Week 7 on November 1st, 1970, then Week 9, November 15th, hosted the second matchup. This was between the NFC Central's Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions. Detroit hosted the first game with both teams coming in with 5-1 records. Minnesota had home field in matchup number 2, holding a 7-1 record, while the Lions were 5-3. These two teams combined to break the 70-point barrier in C-score, coming in at 70.954. Coming off one of the more dominant seasons in NFL history that did not result in an NFL championship, the Vikings were right back at it in 1970, going 12-2, putting up top 3 finishes in points scored and points allowed, and getting a gargantuan C-score of 37.823. The Lions, one of the best teams in NFL history that did not win its division, went 10-4, were second in points scored, tied for second in fewest points allowed, with the 4th hardest schedule in the league. Their C-score was 33.131. The game in Detroit saw an explosive first half leading to a defensive second half, which was right up Minnesota's alley, giving them a 30-17 victory. The Lions were in control of the second game, taking a 20-10 lead into the fourth quarter before the Vikings charged back to complete the sweep, winning 24-20. Our number 5 entry gives us our final divisional matchup. We are once again in 1968, but this time we're in the NFL. Week 7 took place on October 27th. Then Week 14, the final week of the season, was December 15th. The matchup here was between division rivals Baltimore Colts and Los Angeles Rams, proving that the NFL has always been terrible at geography. The first game in Baltimore saw the Rams come in with the better record at 6-0, while the Colts were no slouches at 5-1. The last game was held in LA. The Rams were 10-2-1, while Baltimore was 12-1. The combined C-score for these two was 71.142, and it's safe to say that the Colts carried the weight in this one. This was a thoroughly dominant unit, going 13-1, outscoring their opponents by almost 260 points in a 14-game schedule. The eventual NFL champions, but not the Super Bowl champions, put up a C-score of 49.372. As for the Rams, they were a solid team across the board. 10-3-1, triple-digit point differential, and top 5 finishes here across the board. Their C-score was still very good at 21.77. The Rams did suffer their first loss of the season in that first game in Baltimore, losing 27-10. That last game was meaningless. The Colts had already clinched and the Rams were already eliminated, but it was exciting, with the Colts finishing the sweep with a 28-24 win. We're getting to the heavy hitters now, where the year of the game is probably going to give you an idea of what team is involved. At number 4, we have December 14th in Week 15 of the 1985 season. That can only mean one team, the Chicago Bears. Their opponents here are going to be the New York Jets. This game, again, late in the season, was hosted by the Jets. They had a 10-4 record, while the Bears were stalwarts at 13-1. These two teams combined for a C-score of 73.317. And as the number 1 ranked team in all of C-score, yeah, the Chicago Bears carried the water here. They were 15-1, second in the league in scoring, first in fewest points allowed, eventual Super Bowl champions. Their C-score remains unmatched over 40 years later at 52.163. The Jets are kind of forgotten for how good they were in 1985. They did not win their division, and they were not the miracle team that made it to Super Bowl 20. They were 11-5 with an excellent point differential, finishing top 7 in points scored and fewest points allowed, while just missing a top 10 strength of schedule. They put up a C-score of 21.154. However good the Jets were, though, they weren't good enough for the Bears, as this was a quintessential Chicago performance, downing the NFL's number 4 ranked offense in a 19-6 win. Here we've arrived at number 3, and I think the year can probably give you a good indicator of who we're talking about. November 3rd, 1991, this Week 10 matchup was between the Washington Redskins and the Houston Oilers. Washington hosted Houston with their stellar, undefeated 8-0 record, while Houston was also powerful at 7-1. These two teams combined for a C-score of 73.441. Whereas the Chicago Bears of 1985 are C-Score's highest-ranked team, these 1991 Redskins are right behind at number 2. They flipped it, going first in points scored, second in fewest points allowed. They did add an extra loss, but they were dominant Super Bowl champions nonetheless, putting up a C-score of 51.468. Had their Super Bowl opponent been the Houston Oilers, perhaps Washington would have scrounged out the single highest C-score, because the Oilers were a great team. Their record doesn't exactly say so at 11-5, but their point differential and top 6 finishes in points scored and points allowed do say so. Their C-score in the end was 21.973. Now, this was actually a tight game, a big defensive struggle, with Ian Howfield of the Oilers missing a 33-yard field goal with 1 second left. That put the game into overtime, tied at 13, where Washington's Chip Lohmiller made his field goal, giving Washington the very narrow 16-13 victory. This team is more famous for a different year, in fact the year right before this, but regular viewers of the channel will know that we regard the 1973 version as the superior one. Coming in at number 2, this matchup on November 22nd of Week 11 involves the Miami Dolphins and the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas got to host this game with their record at 7-3, while Miami entered the building at 9-1. Altogether, these two teams had a C-score of 73.709. Yes, in 1972, the Miami Dolphins were undefeated Super Bowl champions, but everything here except for that record looks better in 1973. Not limited to that stronger strength of schedule, that much more dominant playoff run, and that C-score at 42.767. The Dallas Cowboys were also better than their final record would indicate, going 10-4, outscoring their opponents by 179 points, finishing top 7 in points scored and fewest points allowed, with a top half of the league strength of schedule. Their C-score breaks 30 points at 30.942. In this game, the Dolphins scored all of their points in the first quarter, and in the end, they won with the same score they won Super Bowl VII with, 14-7. I would say if you were guessing at what the number 1 entry in this countdown would have been, and had this game come to mind, then this would have been your pick. This took place on November 4th, 2007 during Week 9. It was also known as Super Bowl 41.5. Yes, this is probably the most hyped regular season game of all time, and with good reason. This was the New England Patriots and the Indianapolis Colts. Both teams entered the game in Indianapolis undefeated, with the Colts at 7-0 and the Patriots at 8-0. Just over a year ago, we put out our countdown of the highest quality Super Bowl matchups of all time. The number 1 entry in that countdown was Super Bowl IV between the Minnesota Vikings and Kansas City Chiefs. The combined C-score of this Patriots-Colts matchup surpasses that one, officially making this the highest quality matchup, period, of the entire Super Bowl era, with their combined C-score of 78.681. Of course, the New England Patriots finished this regular season undefeated. They went 16-0 and just missed outscoring their opponents by 20 points per game. They led the league in scoring, they were 4th in fewest points allowed, and had a solid strength of schedule. Their C-score was 49.893. The Colts, of course, entered this game with the Patriots undefeated, but by the end, they were still a solid 13-3. They actually had top 3 finishes in points scored and points allowed, and for once actually led the league in fewest points allowed. Their C-score was 28.788. This game, of course, had all the hype, and it lived up to it. This is the second game on this countdown where a 21-10 fourth quarter deficit was overcome for a 24-20 win. This time, that win went to the Patriots. Let's quickly cover some of the matchups that would have made this countdown if not for the fact that teams were going to get repeated. We have the 76 Steelers and the Vikings. In 1985, the Bears and Patriots, before they played in the Super Bowl, make an appearance. 1968, what would become the eventual NFL title game between the Browns and the Colts. Here come the Bears again in that famous Monday Night Football game against the Dolphins. The 07 Patriots are here with their eventual AFC Championship game opponent, the San Diego Chargers. The 85 Bears make a third appearance with their matchup against the 49ers, and the other super hyped game from the 07 Patriots against the Dallas Cowboys are here as well. All of these games were won by the team that would otherwise be making the repeat appearance. Let me know what you think about all of this. We had an almost identical ratio of one-score games on this countdown as we did on the lowest quality games countdown. It was 7 out of 11 there, and it was 10 out of 15 here. By pure percentages though, it's the high quality end of the spectrum that provided us with more. Was there any particular matchup you were expecting to see in this top 11 that you did not see? How about a matchup that was here that you thought wouldn't be? Sound off on these topics or anything else you may have on your mind down in the comments section below. Thank you once again for taking the time to join us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.